Welcome back to Bike Ride Reviews. I'm Scott, and I'm back with another e-bike to test. This time from Puckipuppy. The GoldenR is apparently the brand's dual motor e-bike, made to conquer the wild and handle extreme conditions. With 2 hub motors and a 20 amp hour battery, this full suspension e-bike should provide some exciting off-road performance. Today we're putting this puppy to the test to see if it can hold its own when the going gets rough. Before we dive into the hands-on riding experience, I'll show you how this bike arrived and run through the specifications. Then I'll reveal the pros, cons, and test results at the end of the video. So stay tuned to find out what this dual motor monster can do. The GoldenR arrives in a large bike box, and it's well packed. You install the kickstand, align the fork and stem, and attach the handlebars. Then you install the front wheel pedals and any accessories like lights, fenders, or racks. Our test bike came with standard accessories like the charger, headlight, and toolkit. And you also get spare bolts and brake pads, as well as a pump. Puckipuppy included the basic accessory bundle with our test bike. And this bundle, which Puckipuppy valued at $59, adds accessories like the rear rack and fenders. Since we started this test, the basic bundle has disappeared, and they now offer a bigger $499 bundle for free. But this may change in the future. The GoldenR is a Class 3 e-bike with an aluminum frame. Puckipuppy markets it for off-road riding and hunting. It has a 130mm coil suspension fork and a 40mm coil shock in a horse-style rear linkage, as well as a stated payload capacity of 400 pounds. The single frame size fits riders from 5'4" to 6'6", according to Puckipuppy. I have my doubts about this sizing, but we'll come back to that later in the review. The GoldenR has a 350 watt motor in the front and a 500 watt motor in the back, and both are powered by a 48 volt 20 amp hour battery. Puckipuppy says that the motors have a combined peak power of 1600 watts. A selector on the left side of the handlebar lets you toggle between using only the rear motor or both motors. The thumb throttle next to the right hand grip is limited to 20 miles per hour, but the 5-level pedal assist has a top speed of 28 miles an hour. The other e-bike controls are an LCD mounted in the middle of the handlebar, and a 5-button control pad next to the motor control toggle. The GoldenR has no UL safety certification, but Puckipuppy says that it's working on that. The bike's IPX6 rating for weatherproofing is a solid rating for an off-road bike. The GoldenR's 26-inch aluminum rims are wrapped in unbranded 4-inch tires with a cross-country style tread pattern. The tires are not tubeless ready, and they don't have puncture protection. The drivetrain on the GoldenR is a little disappointing. A bottom-tier Shimano Tourney 7-speed with a 46-tooth chainring and 14 to 28-tooth freewheel. The Logan hydraulic disc brakes have 2 piston calipers and 180mm rotors. The GoldenR has a 740mm riser handlebar with rubber lock-on grips. And the bright, easy-to-read display shows speed, pedal assist level, and basic information such as the odometer and trip distance. The battery level is displayed as a 6-step graphic, a slight change from the usual 5-bar affair. The control pad has buttons for power, up, down, lights, and a horn. The fenders and rear rack included with our test bike greatly increase the GoldenR's utility, especially for commuting or hunting. The rear rack can carry 55 pounds. The bike also has a pair of bottle cage bosses on the down tube and mounting points on the head tube for a front rack. With its camo finish and stylish frame, the Puckipuppy GoldenR is bulky, but it's not bad looking. The first thing I noticed when I hopped on the bike was the sizing. I wasn't cramped, but I needed the seat post at its highest position. So I really don't see how riders much taller than my 6 feet are going to be able to pedal this bike comfortably. Things aren't really much better for smaller riders either. Puckipuppy states the standover height as 29.8 inches, but this is right under the saddle. I measured the actual standover height at 32 inches as you move up the frame. Add this to the 35.6-inch minimum saddle height, and I think it's pretty fair to say that anyone under about 5'8" is likely to find this bike hard to mount, and they won't be able to straddle the top tube with their feet flat on the ground. Switching between single and dual motor modes on the fly sure is easy. For general riding, single motor mode provides sufficient power for accelerating and cruising around. And for quick getaways and climbing hills, I would switch it to the dual motor mode, and immediately felt the increased power. With 850 watts between the two motors, it's not the fastest bike I've ridden, but I wouldn't say it lacks power. Unfortunately, as you'd expect, using both motors drains the battery quickly. The battery display would often drop by 1 bar as I applied power in dual drive. But the toggle makes it easy to switch between modes, so you don't drain the battery unnecessarily. The GoldenR is comfortable to ride, however it is heavy. And you can feel this on the trail as the bike gets thrown around by rocks and roots, and requires taking turns in wider arcs than you would with a lighter, more agile bike running narrower tires. Despite its bulk, however, the GoldenR handles smooth single track and wider roads well. Sure, I wouldn't choose it for technical trails or any of the places I would typically ride my mountain bike, but for exploring light trails, the GoldenR does just fine. The suspension is cheap, but plush, and I enjoyed it on descents just as much as climbs. Braking was consistent throughout my test rides, and the large tires provided plenty of cushion and traction. The frame has some flex, but I didn't notice any speed shimmy, even at higher speeds on the road. Unfortunately, the GoldenR is fairly loud. It suffered from creaky suspension linkage, clunking fenders, and suspension that soon reached its limits. After a few short rides on the trail, the bike developed some off-putting noises that will take more than a bolt check to fix. Finally, with a motor in each wheel, the GoldenR is heavier than most of the electric mountain style bikes I test. I weighed it at 88.4 pounds, which is lighter than the 89.1 pounds that Puckipuppy claims, but it's still enough to make lifting it onto a bike rack or maneuvering it up a set of stairs a real pain. It also means that it's not a bike you want to be left pedaling when the battery dies. Overall, I enjoyed riding the Puckipuppy GoldenR. So what really stands out for me? And what are its biggest flaws? The first pro is that dual motor power. The two motors provide good power for climbing hills and enhanced traction for deeper sand and other loose surfaces. I appreciated being able to swap between the rear motor for casual cruising and using both motors when the terrain got rough, or to tackle steep hills. My second pro is the plush suspension feel. Despite the budget suspension components, the bike is plush and comfortable. The bike's comfort over light off-road terrain and bumpy pavement was impressive. And my third pro is the 20 amp hour battery. Off-road riding and hunting requires lots of power and range. Fortunately, the Puckipuppy GoldenR offers a solid 29 to 39 miles using pedal assist levels 5 and 3. I did the range tests using single motor mode for cruising and dual drive for any hills that I encountered. My second con is the sizing. Puckipuppy says that this bike fits riders from 5'6" to 6'6", but this is clearly exaggerated. I needed the saddle at its highest setting, and I'm only 6 feet tall with a 33-inch inseam. I highly doubt that riders from 6'2" to 6'6" would be comfortable on this bike, unless they only use the throttle. I also think that riders shorter than 5'8" are likely to find this bike too big. My third con is the website information. The parking page for the GoldenR lacks key information, such as the bike's IPX rating and the motor's nominal outputs. Puckipuppy also claims the GoldenR has a peak torque output of 185 Newton meters, despite customer service confirming to me that the motors have 65 Newton meters of torque apiece. So the math doesn't add up. This lack of clear, reliable information is another big disappointment. With both motors engaged, the GoldenR is quick. In dual motor mode, it easily accelerated up the small elevation hill climb to share second place with the Mach Wheel Obsidian. Switch to single motor mode, and it falls to the middle of the pack, taking an extra 30 seconds to climb the hill. The GoldenR nearly matched the Obsidian again in the medium elevation hill climb, coming in just 1 second behind with a time of 2 minutes and 10 seconds up the 226-foot hill. In single motor mode, the Puckipuppy took a minute longer to complete the test. The GoldenR can still climb hills in single motor mode, but it's slower, and it requires more pedaling effort from the rider. In single drive, the GoldenR takes 11 seconds to reach 20 miles per hour using throttle or pedal assist. With both motors engaged, it hit 20 miles per hour in 7 seconds using pedal assist and 9 seconds with the throttle. For the range tests, I used a mix of single and dual motor modes to simulate real-world riding. Single for cruising and small climbs, and dual when I needed extra power for things like steeper hills and accelerating across busy streets. In the Pedal Assist 5 range test, the GoldenR traveled 29.61 miles at an average speed of 22.1 miles per hour. That's a solid performance. However, it lags behind other bikes with 20 amp-hour batteries, like the Himaway Zebra and the Snapcycle R1 Pro, which traveled another 9 to 19 miles. Dropping down to Pedal Assist Level 3 boosted the range by 10 miles. The GoldenR covered 39.18 miles and gained 1,374 feet of elevation, over 2 hours and 19 minutes. That's another respectable result. But yet again, it trailed behind other 20 amp-hour bikes, like the Snapcycle and Himaway Zebra, which beat it by 5 to 12 miles. The Puckipuppy GoldenR matched its cousin during the braking test, with a stopping distance of 21 feet. That's acceptable for safety, and the brakes felt reliable during my test rides. But it's not a great result during our braking tests. Most e-bikes we test stop in 18 to 20 feet, and the very best need just 15 feet. So is the Puckipuppy GoldenR worth your money? Let's break down what we learned. The dual motor setup is this bike's standout feature. Having 850 watts of combined motor power split between both wheels gives you solid climbing ability, and lots of traction when the terrain gets loose. The toggle switch makes it easy to save battery in single motor mode for cruising, but quickly engage both motors when you need extra grunt. I found this setup genuinely useful, and not just a gimmick. The 20 amp-hour battery delivered good range, with 29 miles in Pedal Assist 5 and 39 miles in Pedal Assist 3 when I was switching between single and dual motor modes as needed. The suspension is plush and comfortable, handling bumpy double track and easier trails without any complaint. But there are real concerns here. First, the sizing is way off. And second, the lack of UL compliance is disappointing for a bike that's been on sale for 10 months. Finally, the bike quickly developed creaks. And as this beast weighs 88 pounds, you better not run out of battery power. For riders around 5'8" to 6'1" who need a powerful off-road e-bike and can overlook the lack of UL safety certification, the GoldenR offers impressive capabilities at a competitive price. Just know what you're getting into. What do you think about the Puckipuppy GoldenR? Do you think it could be a faithful hunting companion, or do you insist on a bike that meets UL standards? Let me know down in the comments. And if you're still looking for your next e-bike, check out bikeride.com, where you'll find lots of bike reviews, plus curated lists of the best options in every bike category. Plus, you can find cycling events near you, servicing and repair guides, and join other cyclists around the world in our forums. I'll be back soon with another bike review. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.